to me, like if you want to live a better life, you have to understand that healing makes life smoother, right? The challenges are not going to stop, but if you can heal yourself, if you can decrease that tension in your mind, if you can deal with your old patterns or old traumas that you're carrying, then you're going to have this much more powerful ability to just be effective in your life in a way that you weren't before.
Hey, this is Justin Michael Williams, and before you get started on watching this interview that I know you're excited to watch, I want to tell you that this interview series is a part of a special event that our community does that is totally free every year called Manifest New Year's Eve. Now, whether you're watching this close to the new year or not, listen carefully because I want to give you this context. Every year, at the end of the year, our community puts together this incredible event that helps you set your mission, vision, and goals for the year to come. And our theme is you don't get what you want in life. You get what you are. You get what you are. So it's about who you're becoming so that you can transform. And these interviews, this interview that you're about to watch was a part of that special event. And the best part is it's free and you can watch it anytime you want. So if you go to this website, manifestnye.com, you can see the full replay of our 3-hour masterclass featuring all of these incredible special guests like Young Pueblo, Dr. Tama, Dan Siegel, Sarah King, Sienna Sherman, Vanessa In, and more. And our community coming together so that we can actually transform our lives. And you'll get a special Manifest workbook that will walk you through every single step of the process. And it's totally free. It's our gift to you because what we really believe is that no matter who you love, no matter how much money is in your bank account, no matter what your identity is, and no matter what color your skin is, we all deserve to live in the full abundance that is our birthright. And so it's a great honor to be on this journey with you and to present to you this interview from Manifest New Year's Eve. May you be well. Hey everybody, this is Justin Michael Williams, and I am so excited and so honored to have with me today Young Pueblo, Diego. I don't know what I'm supposed to call you because I call you D, but like all the things, man. I'm just super grateful to have you here with us today. Thank you for making time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Justin. It's always so good getting a moment to really connect. So let's do it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, the context of the world right now is we're in a really interesting context, which is, I'm using that word to say the space that we're all put in. And it feels interesting to me that we're in this moment of the new year. And I look back at like some of those Instagram memes that I've seen that people are like, 2020, none of this was in my vision board, like I didn't plan any of this, like what's up? And so how do we look at planning the year ahead and stepping into the vision for what we want in our lives during this kind of a context that we're all placed inside of? What do you think?
I think it's interesting. I mean, I even wanted to comment, like just listening to what you said, it's almost like the pandemic pulled the whole world out of its comfort zone, right? Like we've all just been pulled out. And it's like, there's so many lessons. I mean, I've been asking myself this past month, trying to think about the year and the ways that I've been challenged and the ways my friends have been challenged. And there are a lot of lessons that we can bring with us into the next year. But I think one of the biggest ones is that you're a lot stronger than you think. And it's just almost as simple as that. Like the challenges have been countless, but people have really been rising. And, either through finding their own internal strength or finding strength in community, like watching all these mutual aid groups pop up and like meet community needs. It's just been a powerful, powerful year. I think people are not only, put into a situation where they have to reclaim their power, but they're finding out that there's a lot of liberation in that. And there's a lot of, just a lot more than just personal growth. It's almost like you're like profoundly reconnecting with who you're meant to be.
Yeah. That feels really important, I think, especially because, as you're saying, people are stronger than they think. I think we've had to grow in ways that we didn't even know that we would need to grow. And there's subtle ways, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I
How
mean,
have
yeah.
you, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking like everybody's plan got thrown out the window. So, and now we're all realizing that we can like activate our creativity and figure out, okay, what's my new route to success?
Yeah. I think one of the things that I love that you speak about so much in your writings and in your work is this feeling of non-attachment, right?
Yeah.
And being unattached to the outcomes that are coming in. And I think there's no time more important than now that we learn how to understand that practice. So how do you think that relates to what we're stepping into as we go into 2021?
I think one of the biggest things is like allowing that flexibility to be a part of your plan, because if you're too attached to how it's all going to play out in your mind, then you're not going to be able to deal with the just like the random spontaneous changes that occur that make you, that force you to switch it up. So being attached to like how things are going to play out, it's much more important to like release that attachment, but then really connect with, okay, what's my real goal? What am I trying to accomplish? And just allowing that flexibility to give you that room to like be playful and just figure out how I'm going to get there, and like connect with your strong determination and see like, okay, challenges are arising, but is this still worth my time? Is this still something I want to accomplish? And allowing that loose, um, almost that loose goal orienting, so that you can go out there, achieve what you want, but then not not be too attached to what's going to happen. I think it just allows for so much less friction in the
Yeah.
process, because we create so much friction in our minds, and then quickly that becomes part of our lives when we want things to
What do you
go
mean? What do
a
you mean
certain
by
way.
friction? What do you mean by friction?
Friction, I think anytime that you're experiencing craving towards wanting things to be a certain way, that's friction. That's tension in your mind. That's making your mind heavy. That's decreasing the amount of creativity that you can access in the moment. And that friction quickly becomes, it becomes interpersonal, right? Like when you're in close proximity with someone, especially during all these moments of quarantine, there are so many, right, times where egos are literally touching and pushing against each other, and that'll cause friction to arise. But that friction is decreased the more that you know yourself, the more that you're able to have personal compassion, and then quickly you're going to be able to be a little more patient with the people around you.
So, it's interesting because when you're talking about it, and I get it, right? Like, let's not attach and the friction. And then I can imagine people listening going like, okay, I get it. But
Right,
then
right.
when I come into this moment of like something that I really want or something that I was really looking forward to, and then like it gets pulled out from underneath me, like, how do I then practice that? Like, what do I have to turn to? Because it feels like sometimes we try to just in our mind say like, okay, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. It just turns into more friction. So what do you do or what do you recommend that we do?
I mean, I'm glad that you brought it up, because it's not right. You can like mentally and intellectually orient yourself like, oh, right, I shouldn't be attached. I should be patient. I should be compassionate. But what's the reality in the subconscious of your mind? You have all these habit patterns that are gearing you towards the opposite direction, towards having a lot of craving, having a lot of aversion, being fearful. So you need to, especially when you're talking about transforming your life, changing your life, I think the first and foremost thing that any individual needs to do is come in contact with what's actually happening in the subconscious. And the best way to do that is through having a real inner practice, right? Towards finding that type of meditation that's going to help you, or even like, finding a therapist that you really connect with. But if you're really able to build that self awareness, that's the vehicle that you're going to use to break those old patterns. That's what's going to slow down that very quick chain of events in your mind, so that you can see, oh, right, this is trying to pull me back into the past, but I'm not committed to that anymore. I want to actually develop new ways of dealing with these old situations. So to be able to do that, you need to practice. So to me, like if you want to live a better life, you have to understand that healing makes life smoother, right? The challenges are not going to stop, but if you can heal yourself, if you can decrease that tension in your mind, if you can deal with your old patterns or old traumas that you're carrying, then you're going to have this much more powerful ability to just be effective in your life in a way that you weren't before.
I love this. And the words that you just said right there, like that I want to finish for people is like healing makes your life smoother.
Yeah.
That's like that's such a the way that you can unpack that for yourself in relation to you talking about friction, smoother, all of that. It relates so much. And I just am wondering, how did you get on this path? Like, how did you end up, somebody with your background and in that body, end up on this
Yeah.
path to help liberate yourself and so many other people?
This Ecuadorian body. Yeah. I I mean, honestly, I was tired of the friction. I was tired of all the tension that I was causing myself. I was tired of having all these really terrible habits that I've developed over time. And I knew that like enough was enough because I had hit my own personal rock bottom and I wanted to, like, I was just exhausted by it. I was exhausted by the suffering. And I knew from the beginning, the main thing that I was doing to myself at that time was that I was constantly lying to myself. I was constantly being dishonest
Mm,
about my own like inner struggle, right? Because the moment that I would feel tension in my mind, I would run to pleasure and I would try to connect with pleasure so that I would have that sensation of pleasure on my body as opposed to the sensation of tension all over my body, right? So connecting with the reality that, okay, I'm chasing pleasure, I'm constantly lying to myself. That's what pushed me into, just developing this sort of radical honesty with myself so that when I didn't feel good, I wouldn't run away from it. I would just try to be with it. And I basically did that for about a whole year before I started meditating Vipassana in the Esenguenka tradition. And that technique, it's a really powerful technique that will just, get you to the very root of all of these, difficult patterns that you've been building over time and just will literally cut them at the very root of where the mind begins. And that just made a world of a difference.
yeah, I love this because one of the things that I love, I love many things about you, but one of the things that I love most is that like you really practice what you teach and what you preach and what you write. Like it just is coming from such a deep place within. And I think about this in relation to the conversation we just had a moment ago about the friction and when we're
Mhm.
healing, everything becomes smoother. I'm going to butcher it, so I apologize, but there was one of your posts, of your prose moments that I have like repeated the essence of what it was so many times in my mind. And you'll know exactly which one I'm talking about, I think, where it's something about like, the healing is working when you have the same trigger, but
Mhm.
you don't have such a dramatic response, right? Or you don't have the same response.
Yeah, that's the
And
essential idea of that one. Yeah, for sure.
yeah, I know I'm saying the wrong words, but but that's what I took from it. That's what I took from it. And I'll see if I could find that for people to put it up. And the big message for me was that the healing, and it helped me see all these moments in my life that, wow, even though sometimes I'm still going through a hard time, or even though these triggers or these things are still in place, like I can actually see my progress in my healing
Yeah.
through my check-ins with those triggers. And so they show up as almost like a gift to see where we are. So how can you invite people, I think, into seeing the things that come up for them differently? Because so many people feel like they're failing if they don't change instantly and everything isn't right on the right track.
Oh no. So that's one of the problems that we have to pull the like deeply ingrained capitalist mindset out of the healing, right? Like you're not
Mm.
you're not going to like profit maximize your healing. That's just not how it works. It's a very long-term, slow process. And if you want to see, but the mix of that, right? Like the opposite end of that is that when you do find a really good technique, it's for you because it does start giving you results. But even then, when you start getting results and you start noticing the decrease of the reaction, the decrease of the tension, there's still going to be that up and down. But to see those like dramatic, life shifting, changes, it does take time. And
Yeah.
I mean, like I've been meditating. I started in 2012 and it's 2020 now, or 2021 soon. And I think the best results that I've seen have been in the last 2 years. But you almost have to like build that fire for it to just become this like, roaring blaze that can really burn away at all that ignorance that we're carrying inside, so that we can really make our self-awareness powerful.
That's amazing. I just see the image of this flame
Yeah, we're
building.
literally just like burning away ignorance. All of us have like our perspective is so narrow, so narrow.
Yeah, man. And, as people are diving into their practices, I think one of the things that you've really pinned for us that feels so aligned with everything that they will, like I teach and that they'll have learned in the Manifest program, is that the internal work is actually
Mhm.
what allows us to make our external world show up differently.
Yeah, and especially like I love the greater connection between manifesting and healing that wasn't really around before. Like I remember in 2014 when I first started like learning about that world, um, so much of it was around like, visualizing and seeing that, and all of that can be well and good. But the most important thing is like you need to release all this tension that's inside of you. All of that are little blocks that you have. And the moment that you start releasing all these little blocks, you're going to be so much more capable of being like, oh, this is a goal I have. Now, how can I creatively and with determination figure out how I can get from this point to that point? And if you don't deal with that, all this like stuff that's bundled up inside of you, then your creativity is going to be incredibly limited, because you have to understand there's human habit and there's human nature. If your
Mm,
human habit, which is essentially all of your craving, all of your aversion, all of your fear, all of these sort of very limiting ideas, they're there, they have their use, they're there for your protection, but they're not going to help you thrive. And what happens to a lot of people when they deeply start healing themselves and they use some transformative technique, they then start unraveling, undoing, and really diving into that deconditioning process so that that natural human nature just starts bubbling up. And like, what's your human nature? It's love, it's compassion, it's creativity, it's this powerful ability to problem solve. And that's happened to so many people. And what's beautiful about it is that it happens to people even when they don't practice the same technique. That love in there is bubbling up inside of you, but how are you going to let it shine? Right? You got to get rid of all that very thick stuff at the top that's stopping you from being the best version of yourself.
oh man. And so because I think what I want to make sure we highlight for people is this human habit stuff. And this is the
Mhm.
stuff that sometimes is sometimes obvious, sometimes not for us.
Mhm.
And I think what we see so many people doing or have seen that's shifting, thankfully, is people love the light work, like the building the light, the thinking positive,
Mhm.
the, visioning and everything that you're saying. But what you're saying is there's another half of the equation, right? It's like you have to build the light, but we also have to look at the shadow. We also have to look at how we're
Oh yeah.
sabotaging ourselves.
Right.
Yeah. And
And it's
go
and
ahead.
it's interesting because the mind does require a trajectory, right? When you want to give it a point for it to reach, you do need to like make an aspiration, like this is what I want to happen. And then you'll work, right? You'll figure out a way to get there. But if you don't have that, and it's to be able to get there, you're gonna have to come across your inner blocks, right? Well, what's stopping me from getting there? Like, why am I not there right now? So being able to just meet yourself fully, wholly like that, then
Yeah.
yeah, the
So
progress
big.
would be so much more faster.
It's so big. What's your 2021 aspiration, Diego?
Um, oh man, that's good. I think I just want to go big in meditating, man. Honestly, like, and it's been the same kind of aspiration every year. But I love writing, and I love just like talking to people and doing the type of writing and speaking that I do. But my number one thing by far is just going deeper in the meditation, specifically in the Buddha Dhamma. Like I've been learning so much from the Buddha's teachings. Like I really see him as like the most well-rounded psychologist of human history. Like he understood the
Wow.
mind so much more profoundly than anybody else. So I just try to just, deepen my understanding of the teachings and then try to spend as much time as possible meditating. So I'm hoping to do a good number of courses in 2021 and just grow in my liberation because now's a great time to get it done.
For people who want to start exploring and just like tap into this style of meditation that you're doing,
Mhm.
what's the best way for them to pop into it?
Yeah, the best way, there's a website. It's called Dhamma.org. So Dhamma as in the Pali word, not Sanskrit. So it's spelled DHAMMA.org. And when you go there, that'll connect you to Esen Goenka in the tradition of Sayagyi Bakin, and they're both two Burmese men who basically, help spread the Buddhist teaching. And there are centers all over the world. What's really special about those centers is that not only is the technique incredible, right? It can lead you to liberation, but it's also free. So, you can go to silent 10-day courses where you can learn about the technique and like literally practice it. It's basically a giant 10-day guided meditation. And it's not something
Okay.
that you can like, especially with that technique, you can't like learn it in a day or anything because as you're learning it, you're actually at the same time building qualities of the mind that can help you, take your awareness to a whole nother level, take your equanimity to a whole nother level. So it's it's incredible. Yeah, it's a great retreat and it's profoundly helped me in my life and I really recommend it to people.
Amazing. Amazing. I think the last couple things I want to ask you in closing is just given COVID,
Yeah.
and the experience that so many of us have had, how do you recommend that we look at manifesting our visions for our lives and that aspiration differently this year than maybe we've done in the past, especially when people feel like they're so out of control, or their visions
Yeah.
didn't come true? Like, what is the one tip of like how we take this deeper?
So, I mean, for me, I think one thing that I really want to like ingrain in myself is that the challenges are not going to stop coming, right? Really embracing the fact that change is always happening and that right now it's a pandemic and we haven't experienced one of those before, or the humanity hasn't experienced one of those in 100 years. But that doesn't mean that some other challenge may not arise, right? We live this century, the one that we're existing right now, it's going to be a century of massive challenges, massive, especially if you study history, if you study economics, if you have, look from climate to, food, water, like there are so many massive challenges that we collectively need to face, right? This isn't something that we can face. We can't figure them out as individuals, but as a collective, as one human body. Um, so if you have personal, individual goals that you want to achieve, be allow yourself to be flexible. Allow yourself to understand that the changes will come, right? Life is all ups and downs. But what you can change is your reaction to the ups and downs. So find your tool, connect with it, use it on a daily basis and deepen that inner work because then the challenges when they come, yeah, they may disrupt a little bit of your life, but you're at least going to have that mental clarity that's going to allow you to deal with it skillfully.
Mm, this is so beautiful. Life is going to have its ups and downs,
Oh yeah.
and what we can anchor into is how we respond and how we move up and down with it. And that's what I love, about meditation and our inner work practices, because it anchors us into that space within us that is unshakable,
Yeah.
that's immovable,
Yeah.
and we can hold on tight to it. Diego, I'm so thankful, man, that you are doing the work that you're doing. Not even doing the work, that you are who you are, in the world, and you've allowed
Thanks so
your
much.
human nature, your human nature to come and shine through. And is there any last message that you want to leave with people today before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you're so kind. I'm just trying my best like everybody else. Like there's a lot. It's amazing how and that might be the last piece of advice. Like cut yourself some slack. Like understand that when you start developing your self-awareness, what is self-awareness? Self-awareness is a mental microscope. You're literally making this powerful microscope so that you can see your mental movements. And when you start seeing yourself very clearly, you start realizing like whoa, like, actually, there's a lot of parts about myself that I don't like that you didn't quite see before. So just be cool, like understand that you're sharpening your self awareness, but not so that you beat yourself up, just so that you give yourself new opportunities to behave in new ways. So when you start, and that happens, it's a funny thing that happens to a lot of meditators who will go away to like long retreats and then they come out and they're like, whoa, like I saw a lot of my behaviors now that I didn't see before. And I wish I don't want to continue them. But
Yeah.
then you just have to be gentle, right? Because you're like on this path and it's a long journey. But just understand that the first step in changing is seeing yourself. Then,
Mm.
the magic happens.
Ah, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much. Really grateful for you.
Ew.
And for everybody watching, thank you for taking the time out of your days and your lives. I know, having our voices in your ears with all the things that you have that you could be doing right now is an honor and a privilege that we don't take for granted. If you want to see more of this conversation and more interviews with other incredible leaders who are here to inspire you for the new year, just go to justinmichaelwilliams.com and you can see it all on the blog. We're grateful, we thank you, and we wish you a happy new year.